What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another NFL Deep Dive. And coming in at number 8 in my power rankings now is the Houston Texans. And you'll notice, I think I'm going to try and keep these videos under like 10 minutes now. I mean, most of these top teams, for one, don't have a ton of questions, so less to really talk about and dive into. But also, I really want to get these done before Madden 18 comes out a week from today. So the Texans coming in at number 8, it is a little higher than you're going to see out there. I think with the hype around the Titans specifically, teams are kind of forgetting about the Houston Texans here, who we know have an awesome defense. They were statistically the number 1 defense last year. Were they the true best defense in the NFL? That's up for debate, but the big question here, J.J. Watt, probably the biggest question outside of the quarterback situation. How much of J.J. Watt, how much of the original J.J. Watt are we going to get? Is it 50%? Then it's not so exciting. Is it 85%? Which, in that case, it might still be the best defensive player in the NFL, adding to the best statistical defense of last season. So really exciting to see what J.J. Watt could be with this defense. I mean, if he is anything north of 85% of himself, and I haven't seen him practice, I don't know how he's doing. The back injury thing is weird. It sucks because he's so fun to watch. But if we do get J.J. Watt, this defense is going to be terrifying. It's going to be right there with the Seattle and Denver defenses that won Super Bowls recently. And then offensively, how much does Deshaun Watson add to this offense? It was not a good offense last year. Obviously, the Brock Osweiler thing was a failure. But they know they're a quarterback away. A quarterback away from what they need to accomplish. They don't need to be an elite offense. They don't need Aaron Rodgers out there. They need Alex Smith. They thought they might have gotten it Osweiler. That's not what it was. So they trade up and get Deshaun Watson. It's a good fit. And, if I was fully confident, though, that Watson is going to be what they need, then I'd probably have Houston more like 3rd or 4th in these power rankings, honestly. But I don't know. I had him as the second best quarterback in this class. I like him. I like him to be like an Alex Smith, a game manager type. If they needed him to develop like Andrew Luck, then I wouldn't be high on Deshaun Watson. But I think it is a good fit. He has some weapons. Unfortunately, Will Fuller is hurt. I think the weapons here are a little overstated. Lamar Miller, we'll talk about him. Outside of DeAndre Hopkins, there's not a ton here. So I think this offense is going to be somewhere between 28th and 20th. And if they can get up to those high 20s, then we're really going to be talking about this Texans team as a Super Bowl contender here, especially if J.J. Watt is healthy. So right now they are 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. I liked them at 40-1. I made bets on them at that price. 25-1 might be getting a little steep, but I still think it's a decent bet. We saw this defense play pretty damn well against the Patriots in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the offense just couldn't control the ball, and they got tired, eventually gave up some points and lost. But that's the way you're going to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, is to slow down that offense. Or other teams like the Steelers, who are high-powered offenses. The Raiders, defense wins championships, right? So I don't think a Super Bowl is out of the cards for the Texans, though it's unlikely. I think if we played the season 100 times, they win it 5. And then onto the division here, using that same logic there. It's an interesting division. The Titans are right there with the Raiders. I keep using the term love child of the 2017 offseason, so I'll stick with that. A lot of money is on the Titans right now. They keep climbing because of all the people making bets on the Titans. So after that, I think the Texans have now become a value. They are split now with the Titans at 2-1. Way back when I did my Titans video all the way at 21 in my power rankings, the Titans were 3rd in terms of payout. So I like the Texans a ton at 2-1 to win this division using the play the season 100 times logic. I think the Texans win this division, 45, 50 times if we played the season 100 times. I think the Colts and the Titans split at around 25 times. Maybe the Jags get in and figure things out for once. needless to say, I like the Texans. I like betting on the Texans this year. This defense could be crazy. I like betting on that potential for this defense. So let's jump in and run through the depth chart now, starting with the offense. I've been talking as if Deshaun Watson is the surefire starter, which he's not. So obviously right now, Tom Savage is listed as the starter. He's going to get the chance, but I just don't see how this team doesn't go to Deshaun Watson. Maybe we even do see Savage for the first few weeks, and then they make the change. But I think this is their window. They got to go to Watson. They gave up a first-round pick to make that move. And I already talked a little bit about Watson, so I'm not really going to cover him here. Brandon Weeden also there as just an interesting guy. I bet all three of them end up making it. And then at running back, not a Lamar Miller fan. I drafted him in fantasy last year and just watched a lot of him for that reason, and just is not a do-it-all back. He doesn't break tackles. I don't think he has the best vision. Granted, this offensive line had a bunch of injuries last year and wasn't the best, so maybe on an efficiency rate he goes up and proves me wrong, but I just don't like the talent that much there. You got Alfred Blue as the backup. They draft Donta Foreman in the third round, kind of a combine freak. Reminds me a lot of Chris Ivory as far as his upside goes. He needs to really focus on being that style of a runner, though. He likes to try and be more of a shifty LaShawn McCoy guy, which he just doesn't have the quickness for. Tyler Ervin, an interesting third down back. Probably we see a little bit of him. And Akeem Hunt as well. They do take Goombawale out of Wisconsin, an interesting running back. We'll see if he makes the team, though. And then this receiving core, DeAndre Hopkins, total stud. But Will Fuller gets hurt, and then it gets pretty thin. And that's kind of a big question for the upside of this offense is the weapons here, right? So if Lamar Miller isn't very good, after DeAndre Hopkins, you got Jalen Strong, Braxton Miller, two guys that they're not starting caliber receivers right now. Jalen Strong has shown some flashes for sure. We'll definitely see a lot of opportunity for him. Certainly a guy to monitor from a fantasy perspective. Could be a high touchdown guy if DeAndre Hopkins gets a lot of focus. Braxton Miller, slot receiver, high potential guy. Hit that B button if you're playing Madden, show off the spin move, but still learning the position. But I could see him actually having a decent year if he's on the same page with the quarterbacks here. And then they're really bringing in receivers now, trying to fill out this depth chart since the Will Fuller injury. They bring in DeAndrew White, intriguing athlete, former Alabama receiver, believe he played next to Amari Cooper. He's bounced around the league and hasn't stuck anywhere. They bring in Devin Street, just got cut by the Jets. You got Dre Anderson, Marcus Leak, but a very thin receiving core here. The tight ends, CJ Fedorowicz, whatever, just below that Kyle Rudolph and Zach Ertz radius of the tight end. Good blocker, though. Then Ryan Griffin, again, another step below Fedorowicz. Both those guys are serviceable, but not guys you probably want as your starting tight end. Steven Anderson, Rashawn Allen. And then the offensive line, they had some pretty bad injuries last year, like really bad actually. You know, they had DeJuan Brown, didn't come back till later, currently holding out, but a stud left tackle, one of the better ones. You got Xavier Su'a-Filo at left guard, it looks like, and then they get Nick Martin back. Zach Martin, obviously, superstar. So Nick Martin was a second-round pick last year. Didn't get picked that far behind in terms of where his brother went. So really exciting to get Nick Martin back into this. I love this offensive line if he is even half of his brother. So some interesting returns there. And then Jeff Allen and Chris Clark on the right side. Obviously, then Derek Newton, not going to play this year. It doesn't look like, what was it, a double ACL tear? I'd be surprised if he ever plays again. Just without those knees, man, that's going to be tough. The depth's all right on the offensive line. Really throughout this offense, though, the depth not nearly as good as it is on the defensive side of the ball. So let's run through the defense. J.J. Watt, man, I just hope he's back healthy. He is so exciting. He might be the best defensive player ever when he's 100%. And just imagine with Jadeveon Clowney and Whitney Merciless, how are you going to block all these guys? I just don't understand. Those are 3 guys that in an ideal world you're able to double, and you can only really double one of them. The nose tackle, it's going to be a competition, it looks like, between DJ Reader and Carlos Watkins, a couple Clemson guys. I like Carlos Watkins. I think he showed a lot in college. I love when you see college D linemen swatting balls down, batting balls. I think it shows great awareness. So who ends up winning that job either way probably doesn't really matter. They just got to eat up space for those other guys. And then Christian Covington, a guy I like. And we'll probably rotate in and out. Joel Heath, Ufamba Kamalu, Brandon Dunn, Eli Unko. Don't know if any of those guys are going to make an impact, but you do get the benefit of those other 3 pass rushers, and it's really going to be straight one-on-ones for everyone else on this defense, because you would be dumb to not double J.J. Watt, to not pay attention to Clowney, and then Whitney Merciless showing himself as one of the best edge rushers in the game. Again, I just hope these guys are healthy. This could actually be, it's a bold take, but the best pass rush to ever happen in the NFL. Jadeveon Clowney came on too. Finally, looks like he's healthy. Got drafted above Khalil Mack, remember. Not saying he's better, gonna be better, but he is potentially has that. So let's move on to the inside linebackers here. You got Cushing and McKinney. It's a really good duo there, somewhere in the top 10 of inside linebacking groups. And then a luxury pick there. They take Zach Cunningham in the 2nd round, probably the long-term replacement for Brian Cushing, getting up there in age. I like Cunningham a lot. I could see 2 or 3 years down the road him really blowing up as a good middle linebacker. You got Brian Peters, Shaquille Rashad, Dylan Cole, and C.O. Moore. It drops off pretty significantly after Cunningham. And then they do have another outside linebacker position that's starting. This is where John Simon came into the picture last year. He goes to the Colts. So Brennan Scarlett listed at that position right now. Not a true edge rush role, I don't think. More of that 5th outside linebacker, probably going to play in either flat zones, curl flats, kind of that outside zone cover linebacker with the occasional pass rush. So rotating there, it will probably be Brennan Scarlett. Does C.O. Moore or Zach Cunningham even come into that role? But that player is going to basically rotate starting, quote unquote, with whoever your nickel back is. So let's get to the corners here. Kareem Jackson, Jonathan Joseph, Kevin Johnson, still a really good group there despite the departure of A.J. Boye, who really broke out last year. And how about Kevin Johnson as a huge breakout candidate this year? I loved him coming out of 1st round pick, really heady player and a good athlete. Does he play in the nickel? Does he play on the outside? We'll see. I mean, Jonathan Joseph's getting up there in age. Kareem Jackson's been just solid throughout his career. I don't think he's a shutdown corner, but a really nice player. But I think Kevin Johnson could really emerge. I think that him being there is a reason they're comfortable to let Boye walk. So they're heavy at the top there with those 3. It drops off, though. You got Denzel Rice, Robert Nelson, a 5th round pick, Treston DeCoud. I would expect him to develop pretty nicely. But probably going to continue addressing the corner in the future here, especially as Jonathan Joseph gets flushed out. And then the safeties, this would be the weakness of the defense, I suppose, but on a defense like this, you're allowed to have the safety position be your weakness. Andre Hall, KJ Dillon, these guys are really just kind of able to clean up the opportunity that everyone in front of them is creating. So those guys will be fine. They do lose. Quentin Demps goes to the Bears, but I would expect either KJ Dillon or Eddie Pleasant to be able to play pretty well there. So that wraps up the depth chart. Texans fans, let me know, what are your expectations this year? NFL fans, who do you think wins the AFC South? It's an interesting division this year. And I am also going to remind you guys, running a Madden 18 giveaway. The early access comes out next week, so pumped for this game. I'm only doing this giveaway if I can get to 1,000 subs by the official release of August 24th. Make sure you participate and subscribe if you like these videos. That's all I got. Cheers, everyone. Peace out. Until next time.